Hello, everybody. My name's Dave. Welcome to Voting Trend. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about the Virginia elections coming up, but specifically the gubernatorial election or just statewide elections in Virginia. So it's great to be back. I haven't done a video like this since probably the 2024 general election. Maybe I did one for Florida. I don't remember for the special elections for the congressional districts, but it's great to be back. So a few things before we start. One, Blue Jays won. Go Blue Jays. Go into the World Series. The second thing I want to mention is I'm not going to be doing New Jersey now. I won't be doing New Jersey for a few days because their early voting doesn't start for another few days. I think it starts on October 25th and it's the 21st. I need to make a model and I'll wait for those numbers to come in before I start doing anything with New Jersey. Now, there are two other things I want to mention that you're probably wondering about. And the first one is, Dave, you wrote yesterday on Substack that you just are going to quit politics. I'm going to quit the commentary on politics, talking about the state of the party or the state of, the United States or whatever like that. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. There are enough people in that space that you can go ahead and find whoever you need there. I don't want to occupy my time with that. The second thing is that I've been granted Slovak citizenship. I'm going to be moving to Europe, hopefully sometime next year. And there will be more of a focus on international elections. I really love doing the Canadian elections and the German elections earlier. It was really, really fun to do those. I want to do those again. So there will be more of an international focus, but I'm hoping being in Europe, I can actually be more hands-on involved with getting news and information, maybe some inside scoop when it comes to the elections in Europe. So that's one of the things I'm going to focus on. And the last thing I want to mention is I've said that I don't believe that we're going to have free and fair elections, right? And you're probably sitting here saying, Dave, why are you doing this about the numbers when you don't think they're going to be free and fair elections? Well, until there aren't, we need to continue to act and do things as if they are. It's irresponsible to do otherwise. So when I think Trump calls the Secretary of State of some state and says, find me those votes in 2028, when he's on the ballot for another time, even though he should not be, at that point, we'll see what happens. But right now, we have to treat every election like it is free, that it's fair, and that because if people don't think that it's free and fair right now, they won't go out and try to fight to actually win an election. So I think that's irresponsible right now. I'm talking about what happens in the future. So with that being the case, we are going to go to the Virginia election here. So one thing that I've noticed about the Virginia election, I have not seen a lot of news about early voting. I'm kind of surprised. I thought that I was going to see a lot. I have this article up here, one of the only ones that I found, and it says, Virginia early voting sees historic turnout, Republican districts lead in ballots cast. So I decided to make my model. I'm using basically the same model I used for 2024, which was really good for Virginia. And it does not look well. Now I'm going to go over to the polls really quick here. So as you can see, Spanberger is basically winning and leading in every single poll, right? But I am going to caution that almost all of these polls that we see are kind of from shit organizations. Okay, Trafalgar Group, Trafalgar Insider, Coefficient, so on and so forth. They're not the best. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know that I am not a fan of polls at all. But I want to talk about why for the Democrats, this is actually, there's a problem right now. Okay, so I'm going to show you here, I guess it's vpap.org, vpap.org. They run a site here that shows the early vote numbers. So they get the early vote numbers in, they give the data, and they provide it to the public. So it's really, really good. So anyways, as we can see here, we can see that the number of votes cast early is significantly higher than it was in 2021. So we can see here, 706,904 votes have been cast now, whereas 56,975 votes were cast in 2021. So that's a significantly high number. Now, many of you might be saying, Dave, there's probably more registered voters now than there were in 2021. And that's true. There's, I think, about 300,000 or so. I'm not sure. There was a 5.3% increase between 2021's election and the point we're at right now. 5% increase. This increase in early voting turnout is around 54%. So just an increase in voter registration does not explain this going on here. But the big question is, where are these numbers coming from? Okay, so we're going to go to a few Republican counties, bigger-ish Republican counties, to see what's happening. So Washington County, we can see here that the gap is smaller, but with each passing day, this gap gets bigger. That the number up here, this dark line, is the current year. This is 2021 right here, the lighter shaded line. As you can see, with the exception of weekends, you can see that line starting to expand. That's good for the Republicans. Let's look at another Republican county as well. Let's go ahead and look at Rockingham County. Again, we're seeing the numbers expand more and more. We're seeing that line expand. That means that more and more Republicans are voting early in these counties. Okay, now let's go to Frederick County. Here you can see a huge gap just blowing up, right? This is the kind of gap, if you're the Democrats, you do not want to see. So in these votes, and we're talking about counties that voted in the 60s, 70% range for Donald Trump. So we're not talking about, 53-47 counties. We're talking about significant Republican counties. And we can see here that the turnout in early voting is way up compared to what it was in 2021. Now, remember, in 2021, the Republican won, okay? The Democrat lost. So it's important to know that when we're looking at these numbers, we're saying, they're even possibly adding on to what they did in 2021, which would indicate a better showing for Republicans. Now, let's go ahead and look at some big Democratic counties. But we're going to look at Arlington County. All right, see, this is a Democratic county. And as you can see, those lines are very close. You don't see them spread. As a matter of fact, the death knell, I think, for the Democrats is if these lines intersect. If all of a sudden this line here continues to go up, but this darker line for now intersects and goes under, that's bad news for Democrats. That's really, really bad news for Democrats. So let's go ahead and go to Fairfax. Okay, same thing. We're seeing the lines very, very close to one another. They're not and they are expanding maybe a little bit, but basically from 30 days here to what we have here, 15 days, last 15 days, we don't see much of a gap. We don't see an expansion like we saw in the other counties. Let's go ahead and I want to move outside of the Washington, D.C. area. So let's go to Richmond. Okay. Again, we see a very, very close gap between two. We don't see a big expanding gap. Again, Democratic area. Now, this is when you have to start worrying. Let's go to Norfolk, Democratic city. We've now come at that intersection point now. This is what you do not want to see. If all of a sudden your early vote and vote by mail is less in 2025 than it was in 2021, and we're talking about days out, quite a few days out, 15 days out before the election, this is bad. This is really, really bad right here. So we're looking at these numbers and they're just not looking good for Democrats, these early vote numbers. We looked at some important Democratic counties that the Democrats need to win. And you can go to this website. So like I said, it is vpap.org. Go through all the counties yourself and take a look, and you'll see that the Republican counties are significantly ahead. Now, let me go back to the Virginia results here. They actually break it down by the congressional district. And if we look at the congressional district here, we can see the one that has the closest to what they did in 2021 is the 9th congressional district. Now, that 9th congressional district here is a Republican 22 district. So they're already almost at the numbers in the 9th congressional district that they were at in the previous election. Now, if we see one of the ones with the biggest gaps, let's look at 10 right here. Okay, so the 10th is a +6 Democratic one. If we look at the most Democratic one, which is the 8th, which is the one above it, look at how big of a gap that is. I mean, they're not even at 50% in the 8th congressional district of where they were in 2021, whereas in the 9th congressional district, the Republican one, they're almost there. And remember, Glenn Youngkin won that election in 2021. So if the Republicans are performing better in early vote and vote by mail now, and compared to 2021, and Glenn Youngkin won that election, that's not good. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the nowcast model. Now, if you don't remember what a nowcast model was, because the last time I did one was really, I think, the last election, what a nowcast model does is it says, of those who voted now, let's make a prediction based on voting history of counties, standard deviations, the trends the counties have been going through, and so on, to figure out what the vote would be in each county, accumulate that all together, and make a prediction that if the election ended at this moment, this is the best that we can predict that the election would be at. This would be the percentages that we would expect in this. So that's what a nowcast model is. So let me go ahead and show you the nowcast model as it is of this morning. So as you can see, if the election were to end now, the Democrats would win 57.2% of the vote. The Republicans would win 42.8% of the vote with 11.22% turnout already. Now, the most important thing to remember here, this is major party projection. So this is basically saying of those who voted for a major party, how would that vote split? So it doesn't include minor parties, independents, and stuff like that. All right, so you might think this looks good. Well, they're doing well. Not really. If we look at Terry McAuliffe, who was the Democratic candidate for governor last time around, if we look at what he had in early voting and vote by mail, he won 59.1%. Okay, that number was enough for him to lose. So he needed a higher number in order to win. As of right now, the Democrats are 1.9% behind Terry McAuliffe's number. Okay, now let's go ahead and just look at the model's accuracy. So I'll put that up here right now. Basically, the geographical accuracy is saying, does the model right now and the votes that have been cast give us a good geographical representation of the distribution of the votes if we look at the voter registration numbers. And right now the model is really good. The R-square is at 0.9585. So this is a good, accurate model as far as geographical distribution and accuracy. So I'm happy with where the model is right now. But let's also go over to the voting methods from 2021, because I think this will give you more of an idea why this 57.2% number as of this point right now is not enough for the Democrats to even win. Okay, so let's look at these. So we have Youngkin, we have McAuliffe, and then we have others. And we broke down how the vote went by method. So we have VBM, which is vote by mail, early voting, which is early in-person voting, and election day voting. Okay, so as you can see, 9% of the people in 2021 voted by mail. Terry McAuliffe dominated that. 75% went for Terry McAuliffe. So he dominated those numbers. Now, if we look at early voting, we see the same thing. We see Terry McAuliffe at 53.5% to Youngkin's 46%. That was 26% of the vote. So 35% of the overall vote in the last election was a combination of vote by mail and early. putting these two together, that's where we get the 59.1% for Terry McAuliffe. It's adding these two numbers there. So he was dominating going into Election Day. And then that lead was evaporated on Election Day. So as you see here, Youngkin here had 56.3% of the vote to McAuliffe's 42.9% of the vote on Election Day, thus giving Youngkin the win. This is the problem, okay? I will have to say that what I've seen so far is very reminiscent of what I saw in Georgia in 2024. One of the things that I saw in Georgia was the rural counties coming strong for Donald Trump right away. And it just seemed like the other DeKalb County, Fulton, and others just couldn't keep up. Henry County and others, they just could not keep up with what was happening in the rural counties. That's kind of happening right now when we look at the election in Virginia. So I am worried as a Democrat, or as a Democratic supporter. I'm an independent now. As a Democratic supporter, I am a little bit worried. Now, with that being the case, are there some silver linings that we can look at? Yes. Okay, I reluctantly say yes, but there are, as of right now. So the first one is that the numbers are still coming in. And each and every day, the Democrats are increasing more and more and more. If the Democrats get over 60, in my nowcast model, if they get over 62%, it makes it a safer race. If they get into 65, 66, 67% with the early vote and vote by mail, then we can see the race secured for the Democrats. As of right now, that nowcast model at 57.2% is just way too low for the Democrats to win this. That's the first thing. The second thing, and this has more to do with voting behavior, okay? There can be a rejection of the Republican candidates because people don't like the candidates. If we think of North Carolina and the governor's race there with Mark Robinson and Josh Stein, I mean, Robinson got destroyed by Stein mostly because of his own gaffes and how bad he looked in the eyes of voters. So Josh Stein ended up winning that election. Could there be a certain phenomenon like that happens in the case of Virginia? Possibly. We don't know yet, but possibly. And the third thing is something that I have poo-pooed on in 2024, but I'm opening up to it for one reason. I really was against the whole Republicans for Harris thing, right? I told people it was a myth. I did a video about it. I wrote about it. I'm like, all you people who are saying that all these people who are Republicans and identify as Republicans are going to go ahead and vote for Kamala Harris, you're living in a dreamland. That's not going to happen. Most of those people now identify as independents, like I do, but I still vote Democratic, okay? We might start seeing that happen now. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm trying to paint a rosy picture. I'm doing this based off of actual evidence. So in the 1st Congressional District in Florida, the special election that we had before, Jamie Petronis, the Republican candidate, actually had less votes than the amount of registered Republicans who voted in that election. So what that means is if every Democrat voted for the Democratic candidate, every independent and non-party affiliate and minor party people voted for the Democratic candidates, there were still people who were Republicans that voted for the Democratic candidates. So we actually now do have some strong evidence of Republicans voting for the Democrats. And that 1st Congressional District in Florida is the biggest piece of evidence that we have. Now, of course, we have the caveat, I would say, of this in the 1st Congressional District of Florida being a special election. Yes, I agree with that. But a special election, I think, has to do more with turnout and the composition of turnout, not necessarily the shifting of partisanship. Okay, so that shifting of partisanship is actually the important thing here. And Virginia and especially New Jersey will be the first states, the first real test to see if there is a partisanship happening Is this shift happening? I don't know yet. But the Florida evidence is good. Those are about the only silver linings I see as right now. Can it get better? Well, we'll check the trends over the next few days. Is this a worry for Democrats? Yes. If the election ended right now, I don't think the Democrats would win Virginia. I don't think they would. We'll see if there are big trends that are going to change over the next few days. I don't know. But as of right now, I have the Democrats losing Virginia. All right. That's all I wanted to say. I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day wherever it is you are. I'm going to try to do, we're only 2 weeks away from Election Day. I'm going to try to do as many videos as I can. If there's news, I mean, we only have like 2 major elections really to look at, right? It's not like looking at 50 states and Senate races and other governor races. So, you know, I might not, I'll try to do something every day with updated information, but it might not be every day. I'll try. All right. I'll see y'all later. Have a wonderful day wherever it is you are. Bye-bye.